Next weekend, Matthew Vaughn has a new spy movie coming out called Argylle. But Matthew Vaughn directed a trilogy of spy films prior to this movie coming out. So, I'm going to rank all three Kingsman movies from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Nathan, and I talk about a bunch of movies on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share your ranking of all three Kingsman movies if you've seen them all. As for me, I had never seen any of these movies until just like the month before, and so I am brand new to this franchise, and so just keep that in mind when it goes into this ranking. If you enjoy this video, click that like button and be sure to subscribe because it really does help a lot. And over on my channel, I have more content like this. Check those out once this video is over. And with that said, let's just get straight into the ranking. Coming in last place, Kingsman: The Golden Circle. And to be clear, I'm very new to this franchise. I go positive on all three of these movies. I watched these movies for the first time like last month. And so with this ranking, I know a bunch of you guys probably hate this movie. And to me, I would say it is also the weakest of the Kingsman movies. But I would also say that I think that this is also a very enjoyable film. Unlike most people, as somebody that likes action spy movies, I got a kick out of all three of these movies, and that includes this one. I totally understand why a bunch of you guys probably hate it. There's some strange plot lines in the directions it decided to go, where they kill off all of the Kingsmen in it, which is very strange considering that's what this whole franchise is, the secret spy organization. Kind of weird that you didn't do more with them. And I totally understand why that kind of sours people on this movie and why they don't enjoy it. But as for me, I kind of got a kick out of this movie just like the other ones. Once you get past that, and I would totally agree with you that that's a strange direction, but once you get past that, I think it's still a really fun spy action movie, where the character interactions from the first film are all still there, with Eggsy, Merlin, and even bringing Harry back, another strange choice, but Harry still has his charm to him in this film. And the character actions and the fun, stylized action sequences are all still there with all the moving cameras and everything, and so that just makes it really watchable. Likewise, there's just some really nice, enjoyable new additions here, where they go to like the United States, and then the American version of Kingsman is Statesman. And so you get some nice new actors in there. You get Halle Berry's a small part in it, Channing Tatum's a small part in it, and Jeff Bridges is a small part in it. But I think it's really fun to see Pedro Pascal in a Kingsman movie, especially as a villain, which like you wouldn't expect him to be in this movie as a villain. And so this is a film where I totally understand why you guys wouldn't enjoy it because of the strange directions it decided to go through in the beginning of the film. But as something that just likes spy action movies and really likes these characters and this franchise, I really enjoyed it. And of course, the most important thing you gotta talk about with Kingsman: The Golden Circle is that it has a legendary sacrifice from Merlin. Our runner-up is The Kingsman. This Kingsman prequel from a couple years back inherently feels very different from the other two films in this franchise, but that's not to say that it's a criticism. This is a prequel to the first two Kingsmen and is the origin story for the Kingsman secret organization. It is set in the context of World War I, and so the tone, the style, it just feels and looks different once you watch this movie after you watch the first two Kingsman movies. And I think this is one of the examples of how to do a prequel correctly, where it feels new and different, but it also doesn't have the prequel problems in which it's just boring and it's answering questions, doing things that you were never wanting a franchise to do. It's just a nice little origin story for this secret spy organization that I've really enjoyed for the past month. It also, Matthew Vaughn just does great with humorous humorous moments and action, and this movie has a bunch of humorous moments and action sequences filled with characters that have their charm to it. I wouldn't say they're as strong as the characters from our original lineup in the first two films, but I will say that they bring their own different style of charm into this one, and it has a lot of fun with all the revisionist history and playing around with facts that you probably learned in your history class when you're in middle school or high school. And so, for the most part, this was actually a pleasant surprise for me, as it was a pretty good prequel origin story for the Kingsman. Now, I will say, I feel like of the three, this is the one that's the most oddly paced, because the first half focuses a lot more on the characters, they're talking a lot, focuses more on the villain that you never actually get to see until the ending, and inherently that means the first half doesn't really have much action. Now, when it gets to the second half, past the first hour of it, I thought it really picked up, had more action sequences, and I got more invested in the story, but that first half is mostly just people talking. There's not much action in it. Likewise, I would say this movie has great action sequences, but I feel like it's the least stylized of the three, and maybe that's what Matthew Vaughn was going for, but it just doesn't have as much moving camera or anything like that. And another thing, it just has the most forgettable plot of the three, where I don't really remember the villain and the twist and stuff like that. It just seemed like it kind of came out of nowhere. But overall, a pretty solid prequel to this franchise that I'm very new to. But for me, pretty easily coming in first place here, Kingsman: The Secret Service. This is the first of the Kingsman movies, and I just think that this movie has the best elements of all the things that I really enjoy about this franchise. And so it's a fresh new spy film while having sort of a similar formulaic template to it. In which case, when I first watched this movie, I went in expecting sort of like a James Bond send-up of spy films without going fully into parody. And this movie just finds the right balance between the two, where it's commenting on all the spy movie tropes all throughout it.
It's like those old movies we both love.
Now I'm gonna tell you my whole plan, and then I'm gonna come up with some third and convoluted way to kill you, and you'll find an equally convoluted way to escape. Well, this ain't that kind of movie.
But it never falls into the category where it just is uncanny, cheesy, and spoofy. It actually feels like a really solid spy film, and that's what I just really enjoyed about this movie right off the bat. And it's filled with great charismatic characters all throughout it. Whether you're talking about in the league, Taron Egerton playing Eggsy, Colin Firth as Harry is really fun, but you also got like Stanley Tucci playing Merlin, who's also really fun, and it's just filled with all these fun characters. Samuel L. Jackson, of course, is our villain, and he just has that Samuel L. Jackson charm that he's always had. And this movie, another thing this movie just does really well is that it has some great world building. It's told entirely from a perspective of our lead character, Eggsy, and so he's the one kind of being recruited amongst all these other people as they're training to get into the Kingsman, the Secret Service. And as they're training, you're following him, and so as you're learning about the Kingsman, he's also learning about the Kingsman, and so it's just a fascinating way to do world building, and that's kind of how I like movies to do that type of thing, is from a perspective of our lead character. Also, another thing you of course gotta talk about is that Matthew Vaughn is just really good with his action sequences, and so this movie has some really stylized action sequences. Whether you're talking about very simple one, like the first action sequence that happens in the bar, or you could talk about the real standout one to me is the one where people going crazy inside of a church. That's a really cool action sequence to me. That's like the zoom in and zooms out. I think Matthew Vaughn just has a very distinct flair when it comes to this action, and that's definitely a compliment. And it's always just kept afloat by the characters and the humorous moments, and it's really funny at times. And so when you put it all together, this is the one to me that just had the best elements of what I loved about the Kingsman franchise. And if I'm ever in the mood to rewatch any of these movies, I feel like this is the one I'm most certainly going to rewatch, and so it is easily my favorite of the Kingsman movies. There you have it, that's my ranking. Down below in the comment section, share your ranking of all 3 Kingsman movies. Over on my channel, I have more content like this. Check those out right now. Click that like button and be sure to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end, and I will see you in the next one.